couple more quick announcements. The breakout group that would be discussing the topic from this morning and also tonight on prayer, you can meet in room 107 down in the hall on the left. And also, for those that haven't had a chance to take the Lord's Supper, if you want to meet in room 105, right down the ramp and to the right, if you didn't have a chance to partake that, as soon as we divide up into our groups. This morning we did talk about prayer, emphasize the fact that prayer is not a trivial thing, that it should never be looked at that way. It's so easy to get caught up in so many things to do and to be active, to be working at things that we use in our mind that idea, well, I'll come back and I'll pray in just a minute or a little later. And it keeps getting shuffled toward the end of our schedule. And maybe at the end of the day, we grab a few moments, so weary, so tired, and it's just not the same. Not the same like it's something that starts our day and in the middle of the day and throughout the day. Prayer is not a trivial thing. It should never be looked at that way. We ought to be praying people and realizing that it's not trivial because God hears, as we said this morning, and God acts because we pray. Now, sometimes when people have private meetings, I'm coming back around to prayer, but think about politics, for instance, and some of these groups that have private discussions in the Oval Office or wherever there are private meetings going on. Whenever someone comes out afterwards, there's usually a barrage of questions. Well, what about this and what about that? And what you're trying to do is find out what was discussed inside that meeting. Now think about the meetings that go on in heaven and what kind of insight we might gain from that. In Luke chapter 18, Luke gives us a tiny bit of insight as an introduction just before Jesus makes a comment. Verse 1, Luke says, "Then he," that's Jesus now, "he spoke a parable to them that men always ought to pray and not lose heart." Now Luke is giving us some insight about what goes on in heaven, inspired by God. And the insight not only is by what Luke is saying, but Jesus is going to take that and go with it even further. The reason that Jesus tells this parable and the reason that Luke introduces it is because listening to God's standpoint, he's up there in heaven waiting for people to talk to him, and they've given up. So he tells a parable so that they would not give up. Do you see what I'm saying here? In other words, God is saying, I'm waiting, I'm standing back, listening, and nothing's being vocalized to me. So here's what I'm getting out of all of this. God is so aware that we tend to give up in our praying that he plugs this in to help us to remember as human beings that on his side he's there waiting, anxiously ready to hear what we have to say. That introduces the question. And maybe in the discussion group tonight, this will be one of the things you might ask as you talk about it, and probably some time praying. However that's designed. But the question is, why do good, strong, faithful Christians still tend to put off praying? And I'm, I think, talking to a good number of us, myself included, that I would say, I'm a strong Christian. Do you pray like you ought to? Do you pray as often as you should? Do you pray fervently? No, all the way down here. You're the preacher. Yeah, I know, but I get stuck just like the rest of us in all the to-dos and the action and trying to accomplish everything, when I ought to remember that if I really want to do a good job, if I really want something big to happen, if I really want good things to happen, then I better include God in it. And as Paul writes in Ephesians, to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or imagine. So in all of our imagination and all of our asking in our prayers, God's able to do even more than that. Why not ask Him? I am guilty of sometimes, after having talked and talked and talked with some, and I think, I'm giving up. And I shouldn't. Maybe I should back up and use my time somewhere else. But in my prayers, I ought to always remember, as we said this morning, God can cause great things to happen that we can't begin to think. So don't sell God short in your prayers. Think about praying. Tonight as we close the lesson, again, if you need prayers, if there's a life that's totally disarranged, spiritually speaking, you need to get it straight, if you need to become a Christian, we're human. But we hold hands and walk this path together, and we struggle together, but we're here to help one another. And so if you need help, we're here to help. Any way we can, would you come while we stand and sing this song?